Hi, my name is Samantha, and welcome back to my channel and another knit chat. So, I'm coming to you live today, unfiltered. I have no makeup on, because let's be honest here, I filmed this entire video yesterday. I did not check beforehand that my microphone was working properly. So I watched it back maybe like an hour later and realized that there was no sound for the entire video. So I was like, I'm not doing this again. And I decided just to address it again today. And I did not feel like putting makeup on this morning. It is, football Sunday. It's the championship games today. My fiance and we're just hanging out at home. We're gonna order in some football food because obviously Bradley Cooper is wrong and football is just there to sell food. So I don't know if anyone else is a big fan of those Uber Eats commercials, but I think it's genius. I honestly think that is one of the most genius marketing plans out there because it's true. Like football comes on and I'm immediately like, okay, are we going to order wings? Are we going to order a burger? Like what is going on? So love it. Love that campaign. Anyways, so that's kind of why I'm looking maybe a little bit rough today. I'm very much in at home chill mode. So let's dive on in. First and foremost, I am wearing my Eva cardigan by Petite Knit. This was made with the Rowan Denim Revive. It's like the denim and cotton. I love it. I think it's a great fabric, and I would make another out of this. This particular one, I did wind up accidentally making the sleeves way too short. So I don't think I have enough left to go back in and fix that, which is fine. I mean, it still works as a great cardigan, but that's what I'm wearing today. And as I noted at the start of the video, this is another knit chat video. So for me, this is my regular standard podcast episode, and this is number 2. And right here is Farty. I mean, Artie. I call him Farty. One of my cats, Artie, and he has decided now is the time to join this lovely, lovely show. And then I don't know if you can hear in the background, one of my other cats is playing with the treat ball. So he's a little treat monster. He loves his treats. So, like I said, this is a standard podcast episode. This will follow the format of finished objects, works in progress, and then acquisitions. And at the end, I will do a media minute where I kind of go through what I've been reading, watching, and just kind of enjoying in the world. All right, so let's go ahead and dive in with my finished objects. All right, so my first finished object, and the one that you would have heard about in my previous podcast episode from December, is my Rosie sweater. And I will insert some B-roll of me wearing it. I wore it to the office. I will say I did succeed in finishing it in time to wear for some cold Florida weather. We actually have a cold front coming in next week. This cat, oh God, he just wants to be pet right now. We have a cold front coming in next week where it's going to be like in the 50s. I'm really happy for the cold weather. I feel bad for all of the people further north of us who are experiencing terrible winter storms. So if anyone is getting hit by those horrible storms, I'm so sorry, and my heart goes out to you, and I hope you and your family are safe. It's similar, I think, to when we get hit by hurricanes. It can be very hard on infrastructure, especially if areas are not well prepared for it. But we in Florida will be getting pretty cold weather, which means I should be able to wear my Rosie sweater again. So I think my cost per wear is going down pretty rapidly with this. I don't remember how much I did spend on the yarn for it in Copenhagen, but let's talk a little bit about what the yarn is. Sorry, I'm still getting used to this. And remember, I've filmed this all already once before. So this is the Rosie sweater. I knit it with the Gepard Garns Wild and Soft, and that is 70% Tucson silk, I think. Oh, actually, I can pull up my Ravelry page. So I use the Wild and Soft as well as Gepard Garns Kidsetta and Issair silk mohair. So the Gepard Wild and Soft is 60% merino wool and 40% tussa silk. So I used that for both of the main yarns, and I did colorway 101 for the main color. And I held that with the Issair silk mohair in colorway 0E because they did not have, at the store that I bought it from in Copenhagen, they did not have enough of the Kidsetta in the color that I needed. But I love it because I found that I really, really like this silk mohair more than the Knitting for Olive one. Personally, I know Knitting for Olive is a fan favorite for a lot of people. I don't think it's bad. I just think that this one is a little softer, in my opinion. It's also extremely fluffy. Like, I'm shedding everywhere. It's crazy. And then the contrast color, I used the Wild and Soft in the colorway 158, held with the Gepard Garn Kidsetta in the colorway 1007 or Brandy. So I'm just going to give you guys a little close up of what these two look like together. I honestly am obsessed. I love the way that this looks. I love the color combination. I'm a big fan of it. And like I said, I've been able to wear it quite a bit since I finished it, which was really exciting because once again, we're in Florida and I'm trying really hard not to like wear it to work every single time. It's just a little bit cold. I don't need my coworkers to be like, this is like the 5th time you've worn it this week. So, but yeah, I love it. It's a great sweater. It's very comfortable. So some things about it though. I think the construction is really awesome and clever. I enjoy the fit of it. I enjoy a lot of that. I will say I wish I had gone down a size. So I knit an XL to XL, and I think that that was just a little bit too big for me. I'm still kind of trying to figure out how I like things to fit. And then I've also lost quite a bit of weight in the last year and a half. So I think I'm also kind of learning what my body is like and what fits my body right. So the things that I like about the fit of the thing, I like the drop shoulder raglan compound construction that's going on. I think that that's really fun. It gives it a nice wide body, which I really enjoy on. I'm gonna, like I said, I'll insert a little bit of B-roll of me wearing it, but I like the wide body. I like that I cropped it as well. I really enjoy that. I don't love how wide the neckline is for me, which I think is because I did go I did do a size that's a little bit too big for me. So I followed the pattern to a T for the neckline because I really did want that like closer neckline fit. And it could also be because of the type of yarn that I use. Like, it is silk, and from my understanding, silk like grows quite a lot. For me, it does sit more in a like scoopy kind of thing. It doesn't really sit up on my neck very much, which is fine. At the end of the day, I don't mind that. But I did want more of the look that that Les Knit had for hers and the sample photos. But it is what it is. I'm not going to go back and reknit it. And then the sleeves were a wild ride for me. So I initially knit the sleeves to pattern. They wound up being way too long, like past my fingers kind of long. So I then had to, they fit fine before I blocked it. So I will say that just shows, I think, like I said, I think it's a combination of the yarn that I used, but also because it is like a drop shoulder fit, it grew a lot. The sleeve length grew so much. So I had to go back once I finished the sweater. I put it away for like a week or two because I was like, I just can't deal with this right now. But I had to go back. I ripped out the sleeves, but because I had I ripped back almost exactly to the pattern. Um, and because I had to rip back, a good majority of decreases, which means that the sleeve would have been very, very large on me, and I didn't want that. So I wound up, when I ripped it back and re-knit the sleeves, I wound up just doing a balloon sleeve fit. So I just decreased every other stitch on the sleeves, and then I knit the cuff in a smaller needle, like one needle size smaller than I originally did. And it gave me, that nice fit around the wrist. It doesn't slide up or down. It fits perfectly fine for me. And it wound up working out for me, but it was pretty annoying when I finished it. I was like, this sleeve is just way too big. What am I going to do? I have to go and rip it back. And for me, I found that sleeves are kind of a common recurring issue. Too short. My fiance's Dagmar zipper the sleeve is like too big and like a little wonky. These ones wound up being too long. So maybe one day I'll learn how to knit a good sleeve. I'm hoping this year I can do it. We'll see what happens. But yeah, so that was my Rosie sweater. Overall, I really do love it. I've gotten so many compliments on it as well when I do wear it, which it like feels weird. I'm not like, we knit these things and it's such a point of pride when people see it and they're like, wow, like you did such a great job on that. Like you're just a beginner. That's crazy. And like for me, like I'm having to learn to be like, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Instead of saying, oh, it has a couple issues. Like I think I'm just personally ingrained to just kind of be like, I actually didn't do as great as you think I did. But you know what? I think as people who make who put such time and energy into making things that people see and are like, wow, you did that. Like we have to just be comfortable being like, yes, I did. And thank you so much for recognizing how awesome this is. So that was my own little thing, but I'm really happy with my sweater at the end of the day. I think it is awesome. It's beautiful. And I'm excited to maybe one day knit some more lay knit patterns. I really thought it was well written pattern. It was easy to follow in my opinion. There were some with the charts. There was like one point where I was kind of like, ooh, this is kind of annoying, but I wound up figuring it out because there's like one point where two of the charts are on the same page, but it's like size based with the charts. And so what I wound up doing is within Knit Companion, I just wound up duplicating the page and then switching between the two when I needed to. And that worked out fine for me. But if you didn't have that ability, it's a little annoying having to like go back and forth like on the thing and remember what line you're like highlighting. So, but otherwise, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a great pattern, and I would definitely knit another lay knit pattern. Absolutely. Alrighty, my second finished object is one that I hadn't that the yarn was an acquisition in my last podcast, I believe. So I had cast it on, and it is another Stockholm slipover V-neck by Petite Knit. So this I knit with the Sorella Cashmere DK in the colorway Long Story Short from the Eras Club. I like it. I think it's great. I've worn it to work already. I will say, and I'm hoping that this is just because it's like the first wear, but it did pill quite a lot. And I'm trying to get it to focus. Yeah. So it did pill quite a lot. Like I said, I'm hoping it's just because that was like my first wear. And if I depill it, it won't pill a lot more. Granted, I don't really know too much about the mechanics of pilling, and it is a soft yarn. So we'll see. It was my first time also alternating skeins because it was two hand-dyed skeins I used. So that was a learning experience for me. I think I definitely needed to do it. Like, as you can see, there is striping. So I definitely needed to. I'm glad that I did. However, it was kind of annoying. It made it take a little bit longer for me to knit this compared to the last one that I knit where I didn't have to alternate skeins because I used knitting for olive yarn. Um, and I'm still kind of learning with the point where you switch it out. So that's what that section looks like. So it's not completely seamless. It's there. It's just not super obvious, I think. And like that's what it looks like on the inside. So it's not like bad, but I am still learning, I think, how to get it perfect. I really want to knit another one in a red yarn. I just have to purchase it. I think I'm going to do that soon. But yeah, I have a lot of button up shirts with like embroidered patterns on them that I love wearing a little slip over with. So I was going to do another Stockholm. After I do that in like the red, I'll probably try a couple other slip over patterns. So if anybody has any patterns that they love, please let me know. It can be a button up slip over as well. I'm totally cool with that, like a cardigan style slip over. That would be really awesome. I'd like to do one that's like cabled, I think. I think that could be really cute. So, but yeah, that is my other finished object. And then my final finished object was a gift for a friend, which I already sent off to her. She lives in North Carolina. I made her my like modified Sophie scarf that I've been making. So it's like a lot bigger. I'll talk a little bit about that during my whips as well, because that is a whip that I have, but I'll insert a picture of her very, very cute dog wearing the scarf here. It's great. It's an easy pattern, and I thought she'd appreciate it, especially because it's cold in North Carolina in the winter. So I thought she would appreciate a nice little scarf. All right, so that finishes my finished objects section. So we're going to move on into works in progress. All right, so for my works in progress, I have two right now. So what I've found is that historically, aka like the less than a year I have been knitting, I was very much like a multi-whip kind of girl. I liked having a couple different ones on the go because you never know when you're going to be in the mood to do something. But I've been knitting, I feel like, with a bit more of a deadline on a couple things. So I've really like locked in on projects. So the current massive whip that I have is my fiance's redemption sweater. So as I mentioned earlier, and as I've talked about previously in my podcast, I made him the Dagmar zipper sweater for our trip to Copenhagen, and the sleeves are just really wonky on it. And it's not really wearable for him, and I'm probably will go back and reknit the sleeves one day. I just don't have the mental brainwidth and desire to do that right now because that was a long project for me and it was a big learning project for me. So instead, I'm knitting him a different sweater, and I'm hoping beyond hope that it doesn't get wonky. And that is the anacortes pullover by Michelle Frazetta. So I'm just pulling up the Ravelry real quick. So I have some notes about it. Okay, so this is where I'm at so far. I am almost done with the sleeves and yoke and raglan increases and all that kind of stuff, and I'm about to split for the body. So I'm really excited about that, and I'm knitting it in the Malabrigo Rios and the colorway Black. And the yarn for this is actually also part of my acquisitions because I got the yarn and then I almost immediately started it. I started this on January 17th, so I think a week ago at this point, and I think I'm making pretty good progress. I'm happy with it so far. I feel like it's going quite well. It does feel like it's kind of small right now for him. However, I know that this is a superwash yarn, and I did swatch for it, so I know with blocking the yarn will grow a pretty like significant amount. So I'm hoping that this will fit him at the end of the day, and also knowing that it's ribbing, and I think ribbing tends to grow a little bit in blocking as well. But yeah, I'm hoping that it'll be good. I'm doing it in a size 5, which I think gives him some good positive ease based off of his measurements, which is what he wanted. He didn't want something that was tight and close fitting. He's not a big fan of that, and he wants something that has like a little bit of a longer body. So Artie is running around with a hair tie right now. You see him just jump. Anyways, so that's my current massive whip. I'm chugging along with it. The deadline for this one is end of March. So we're leaving, I think it's March 24th, to go to Chicago for a group trip with some friends. And I want to have this done for him before that trip because it will be cold and he'll be able to wear it. So, but I think I'm making good progress. I'm sure I'll be able to finish it by then. So that is this whip. I'm enjoying working on it. I'm liking the yarn. I think it's nice. I have found that I don't like prefer superwash or non-superwash. I think that for me they're both enjoyable yarns to knit with. I think I don't really have a preference, honestly. So far, we'll see. As I go further into my knitting journey, that might change, but as of right now, I don't really have a preference between superwash and non-superwash wool. So then my other work in progress is the one that I have that is a little bit more of an easy whip, easy knit, because they're like, this is obviously black yarn. It can be kind of hard to see at night, especially where I need to be able to read the stitches sometimes. So my other whip is another Sophie scarf that I've modified to make big. So I'm doing these for the girls on the trip. Essentially what I'm doing is I'm using 3 balls of the Snefnug from Comarose. And we're actually all going to have it in the same color. I originally bought the yarn for mine in Copenhagen, and then I asked the girls what they would like, and they said pretty much the same color. So I just got 2 more projects worth for them. And I have 1 more to knit after this one, but I'm essentially following the increase rate until I've used about 30 grams of the ball. It's a 50-gram ball. I use about 30, like I follow the increase rate, and then I increase a little bit more rapidly. And then I stop increasing once I finish the first ball. I knit straight for the second ball. And then once I finish the second ball, I add in the third, and then I start decreasing at a similar rate as I did for the increases. And that gives it kind of like an asymmetric like shape, but it also, like, I felt like it works for the scarf. So I'm enjoying it. I think it's easy. It's a quick, if I lock in on it like I did for my friends that I sent her in North Carolina, I can finish it in like 2 to 3 days. So it's a pretty easy one. And like I said, it's more of my mind list. Like if I'm not feeling working on that, or I'm having a hard time seeing the stitches, I can just work on this because I don't really have to see the stitches, just a straight garter stitch, honestly. But yeah, nope, that's my other work in progress. And that's all I have on that front for those things, for items that I've finished and my works in progress. So we can move on into my acquisitions. So I do have a couple acquisitions. Like I said, one of my first acquisitions is the Malabrigos yarn for my fiance's sweater, but I also got some for 2 hats. So I think I'm gonna make 2 Musselburgh hats for my fiance, and then his one of his best friends who we are going on the trip with. I was like, if I'm making the girls, we're all gonna have fun matching scarves. Why not make the guys matching beanies? Because I know my fiance is not gonna wear a scarf, but he would wear a beanie. He's a hat dude. So I got 1 extra skein of the black, the Malabrigo Rios black. I like it. It's nice, perfect. I'm hoping I only need 1 skein, and I'm hoping if I don't, then I have leftovers, or I can just buy more if I need to. And then the other color I'm using for the Musselburgh hat is the Malabriga Rios in the color 051, which is Va. Let's see, focus. There we go. So I thought this would be a beautiful one. It's like a greeny blue color. I think that he will like it. I think his friend will like it. So I'm excited to knit those up. I think they're going to be, it was more of a relaxed idea. Like, you know, my fiance was like, if you don't get to it, like, don't worry about it. Don't rush, finish the scarves for the girls first. But I have a feeling I'm going to be able to make the hats because once I finish his sweater, and the scarf, I have one scarf left to do. And like I said, that can take me, like if I lock in on it, that's like a 3-day project. And then I haven't knit a beanie before. So it could be a bit of a longer one, but I'm not thinking that it really will be. So we'll see what happens. But that was the first acquisition. My second acquisition was from an Indeed dyer. We went up for MLK weekend. We just took a long weekend because we had that Monday off. We took the Friday off as well. We went up to his family's house in Gloverville, South Carolina, which is like right outside of Aiken. And while we were there, we went into Augusta because it's such a short drive in Georgia to just get some food and go to a yarn store. So we went to Three Crows Fiber, which if you're in the Augusta area, if you're visiting Augusta, if you live there and you haven't been to Three Crows Fiber, I highly recommend. The people who worked there were so sweet. It seems like they had a lot of really awesome yarns, like luxury yarns, like hand-dyed, indie-dyed yarn, super cool. A lot of fun notions, and it looked like they also had classes that they would do there as well, which is really awesome. So I was talking to one of the women who works there, and I was like, I'm trying to, find a nice hank of souvenir yarn. And she was like, well, we have this local dyer. I was like, perfect, sold, you got me. And then she went even further and I was like, we have a colorway specifically for our store. And I said, perfect, this is exactly what I was looking for. This is the perfect kind of souvenir yarn. So I got one hank of the Lola Bean Yarn Co. wax bean base in the colorway Three Crows. So it's this lovely like green, blue, purple mixture. And then the wax bean base is 80% superwash merino and 20% silk. So I got one skein because that's generally what I do with souvenir yarn. I only get one. And then I'm planning on making a, like one of my little fun scrappy and strappy tank tops. The Salty Water tank, I think is what they're called, or Salty Day tank by Park and Knit. So I love it. I think it's so cute. And I love that it's specifically for Three Crows Fiber. And I think that's so fun. And it's the perfect little souvenir. And I'm really excited to knit it up. And she was telling me that the little girl on the label is the dyer's daughter. There we go. Yeah. It's the dyer's daughter. And she's, I think, like 10 now, 10 or 11 now, she was saying. And so she recently came in, and the woman at the store was like, we got to teach her how to spin a little bit, and it was really fun. And I'm like, that's just so sweet. It's like things like that I'm like, that's why I like love this community. I think is there's just so many like beautiful connections that you can make with people, and it's a good time. So that was from that trip. And then the last acquisitions are from Sunkissed Fiber Festival, which it's the first year, it's the inaugural festival that is happening in the Tampa Bay area. So it's happening today and yesterday. I went to yesterday. It was really cool. I wasn't really sure what to expect. I thought maybe it would be more local people, but it wasn't. It was actually, there was a lot of people who had traveled for it. And I wound up leaving with two purchases. So the first thing I purchased is a hank from the Dressau family farm, and they're based out of Lonsdale, Minnesota. And I got this hank of her 100% Cormo yarn. Why isn't it focusing? Please focus. There we go. 100% Cormo yarn and a little VM in the natural brown fingering weight yarn. So these are her sheep. So they're the sheep that she has on her farm that the yarn is made out of. And then she dyes all of her yarns using plants from around her farm. So it's all natural dyed yarn, like plant dyed yarn, which I thought was so cool. And I'm like, this is why I want to go to these fiber things. I tend to get really overwhelmed in these type of spaces. I did a lot of like book conventions and stuff like that, like years ago when I was more in the book review space, and it just got to the point where I would just like black out and I would spend a lot of money, and it was just very stressful and overwhelming for me. And so yarn festivals and fiber festivals, I think, kind of give a similar vibe in that way. But I enjoyed being able to meet people who have like their small family farms, and then they're producing this yarn, and like the sheep that it came from because it's their sheep, and like she naturally plant dyes the stuff. So I thought that was really cool, and if you're interested, you should definitely check her out. And then the other purchase I made is also really cool and it's so soft. I like was standing in her booth just squishing and petting the yarn the whole time. And it was from the Alpaca Pines yarn company. So they're based out of Illinois. And she has her own fiber mill where she processes it, and she has alpacas. So I got two hanks of her alpaca yarn. So it was 80% Wakaya alpaca and 20% Jacob wool. And these two hanks that I got came from John. So these two, it's just like a black, more of like a black, dark brown. I'm going with black personally. Yarn, it's so soft, and I just love that like these are her like babies. Like she was literally like, oh yep, that came from John. Like John is a good boy. Like she would tell you all about her alpacas, and like you could tell that she was a big she really cared for those little babies. And it's just so soft. It's so soft. And she does like the chemical free dyeing, I think is what she said. But I'm just like, I think I'm gonna make a hat out of John. And I think it'll be really fun because then I'm like, every time I wear that hat, I'm like, oh yeah, thanks, John. Thank you so much, John, for giving me the yarn to make this hat to keep my little head cold. I mean, warm, my cold little head warm. So, yeah, that was exciting too. And that's kind of what I realized. I think that for me, I was there, and like I love indie dyed yarn, and I think it's so beautiful, and I think it's, there's so much creativity with indie dyed yarn. I just don't necessarily think that it's for me one of those things that I'm going to like actively collect and go crazy for it. I think I've come to that conclusion. When I'm making my garments, I don't want to have to, like switch strands like that's just for me, it's just more hassle than it's worth, in my opinion, for some of them. So I think I've kind of come to that conclusion. So for me, like fiber festivals, a lot of it are indie dyers. And I do think it's really awesome for, maybe certain projects or like souvenir pieces, or if there's just like one that's just gorgeous and you don't want to deal with it, like using it in a color work. I think that could be awesome. Otherwise, I'll probably wind up sticking with more commercially dyed yarns. We'll see. We'll see how that goes. But that is the end of my acquisitions, actually. So if you are just here for the yarny, the knitty things, the little knit chat, then this is where I leave you. And thank you so much for tuning in to my second Knit Chat Knitting podcast. And I hope to see you again soon. If you want to stick around for a media minute, it'll be short, I promise. So, media minute, what I've been watching, what I've been reading, what I've been listening to is not too much. So, I've been back on my podcasts a little bit, listening to the Bravo docket, and that kind of ties into what I'm watching. So, I'm back on watching some more Real Housewives. And part of it is because I like wanted to listen to the Bravo docket, and also I just kind of was like feeling it. On our trip up to South Carolina, I watched The Traitors. I caught up on the season of The Traitors US, and then in South Carolina, I watched the UK, the most recent season of Traitors UK. And then as we were coming down, I was like, I'm kind of burnt out on Traitors. What do I want to watch? I decided to turn Atlanta back on, The Real Housewives of Atlanta, and I kind of got back into it. So I've been watching that, and then we caught up on The Real Housewives of Potomac, and I caught up on The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, and then I caught up, or we're almost caught up with Salt Lake City, which is in its, like, they're in the reunions. So like I said, it kind of ties into what I was listening to with the podcast, because the Bravo docket, I love it. If you are a Bravo person and you are wanting to know more about the legal side of things or any of that, like, it is a fantastic podcast. They really do dive deep into a lot of the legal aspects, and they try to make it understandable for folks. So like people like me who have like very strong fascination with the law and all that kind of stuff, like part of me wishes I had gone to law school. I looked into it for a hot minute, and then I was like, I don't know. I already have enough like debt from undergrad. I don't need to add to it. So that it's a great podcast. They explain stuff in a way that is understandable for people who don't have a legal background, but still gives you that like fun, exciting legal aspect of things. If you are also someone who is interested in legal stuff and it's not just on like the celebrity side of things, Strict Scrutiny is another great podcast where they dive into like the Supreme Court and like that legal side of things. But that's a totally other topic, and I don't want to get started on it because I will go down a rabbit hole with all of that kind of stuff. The other stuff, so reading and listening as well. I'm mostly just reading audiobooks right now at this point in my life. I'm not doing a lot of physical reading, which is like sad because I love physical reading. It's been hard for me to really like, I burnt myself out, I think, on the like 4+ years that I was a book reviewer, or I tried to like be in that space as a bookstagrammer. I was just reading so much, and I think I burnt myself out, and I'm still kind of recovering from that. So I'm hoping to get to a point where I can balance my hobbies a little bit better with reading and all of that. But I do listen to a lot of audiobooks, like I said. So I finished Winter Frost Market. I thought it was pretty good, pretty decent book. I listened to White Hot by Alona Andrews, the graphic audio version, and 10 out of 10. First of all, I love a graphic audio. That has been a discovery of mine, that I love graphic audiobooks. But the Alona Andrews series, the White Hot series, is actually pretty good. Like it's pretty awesome. I still prefer the Trisha O'Malley Wild Scottish series. That one's really good. But White Hot is awesome. And then I'm currently listening to Clean Sweep. So it's the Innkeeper Chronicles by Alona Andrews. And that one's pretty good too so far. So I'm not too far into it, but I do like it. And I have told people, I have like friends in my life and coworkers who are like, I'm not really an audiobook person. And I'm like, first of all, try listening it on a faster speed, because that's one of the big things for me with audiobooks is I found that they are talking way too slow, and I wind off drifting off into another space. So putting up the speed. If it's a single narrator, I tend to listen at like 1.7 to 2 times the speed. If it's a graphic audio, I listen at about 1.5 times the speed. But that is a big suggestion I have. But anyways, I am going off. But that is what I got for you today. So thank you so much for watching and joining along, and I will talk to you guys in the next one.